In this video, I'm going to take you through how you put cards up for auction on COMC that will actually auction off on eBay, and also consider what kinds of cards are best for this sort of thing. So let's get into this. All right, so the first thing I want to mention is just whether or not you should even do this. Now, you do have to be a little bit careful. The auction price for very frequently goes for less than the buy it now price. It sells quicker, so that's the advantage, but it oftentimes sells for less. And for whatever reason, COMC auctions on eBay oftentimes are among some of the lower among the comp spectrum. If there's a spectrum of cards that sell anywhere between, $40 and $80, the COMC auction is oftentimes going to be down there closer to that $40 card. Not every time. There are certain players, there are certain cards that don't fall through the cracks very often. Some of the vintage baseball cards, that's not the case. Some cards by, Michael Jordan or cards that are generally sought by a lot of people, and they're the kind of cards that maybe people even have like saved searches in their eBay to find those kinds of cards. Then those cards won't necessarily fall through the cracks, but a lot of other cards will fall through the cracks. So you have to be a little bit careful. So I don't do that many. I have made some mistakes, but I have done others that did really well. Like this one right here sold for $142. I had bought this for $50, sold for $142, but it's a Steph Curry rookie. It's not the kind of thing that's going to fall through the cracks. So maybe COMC helped get more eyeballs on it. So that was a good option. Other cards, this one sold for $30. Not a lot of people are looking for a Cyrus McCormick 1952 Topps Look and See. I mean, it still did okay, and it was never selling. So I was like, I'm just going to put it there. Other cards I really probably shouldn't have. This one, I think this Infinite, if I had put this on Buy It Now, it probably would have done better and it would have eventually sold. This Willie Mays Legendary Lumber, I really wish I hadn't done that one either. I think I could have got more for that. I would have rather kept it than sell for that price. So I have made some mistakes. You can see I've done a lot of pages, but most of these pages are actually from like December 2022, no, 2021 and January 2022. Well, COMC had a no minimum fee auction event because usually they take $3.50. You can see the auction fee, $3.50 minimum, or it's like 3.5%. So if it goes above $100, for that reason, you usually don't want to sell cards unless you're selling it for at least like $25. Now, if you sell it for $100 and they only take $3.50, that's actually amazing because that means they're only taking $3.50 out of 100. If you were to auction it on eBay, eBay would be taking 13.5%. COMC is only taking 3.5%. So I don't know if they must have some arrangement with eBay, but you actually save a lot of money on the fee in that kind of scenario. So for this card right here, I only paid $5 in auction fee for that. So I got $137 into my COMC account, which is way more than I would have had I auctioned this off on eBay. So there are occasions when it can be good to do like that. Even if it sells for $25, then basically you're selling it for, like, COMC is taking a 14%, which is what eBay would take anyway. So I will try to generally, if I'm hoping a card is going to sell for at least like 30, 40, or like $50. If I make a mistake, sometimes I'll make a mistake. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So you don't want to sell cards that are gonna sell for too small. The other thing to consider is whether or not, so these cards, because there's an upcoming NBA tip-off event where they're gonna have a bunch of cards up on eBay on a like highlighted page on the front page of the collectibles section. I'll have a little advertisement there. People can click in and look through this. Now, in the past, I haven't used this too much because I have noticed that it creates an influx of supply, and the demand that the advertisement generates is only a little bit more than normal. I mean, people who are looking for sports cards are looking for sports cards. And when there's suddenly an influx of new cards, it doesn't necessarily mean that each individual card is going to be getting more eyeballs. Even if there's more people looking in general, there's so many more cards for them to look at that they're also more likely to overlook your card. So that's actually why in the past I haven't done things with this NBA tip-off event, or when they have it for other sports, a similar kind of thing. I haven't actually done it much. Maybe I'll do 2 or 3 cards just to try it out. And most of the time, it's always been, oh, that card sold for less than I could have sold it if I had just waited on buy it now, or if I had even just auctioned it off myself on eBay separately. Oftentimes that's been the case. This time I'm going ahead and doing a lot more of it this time. Part of the reason is because I'm trying to get rid of some of my inventory, a little bit more of my inventory, and I'm noticing a little bit of a shift in the market right now. I feel like some of my basketball start cards are starting to sell a little bit better than they were before, than they have been for even the last year or more. So I kind of want to just try it this time, and there's a handful of cards in here that I'm hoping don't fall through the cracks. I think I might have made some mistakes, and we'll see. Maybe I can share back with you about how this went later. But you can see here, Michael Jordan cards like this, they very rarely fall through the cracks. Michael Jordan is one of the few players people will go into that, the COMC eBay page, and they'll type in Michael Jordan. That's one of the names they'll type in. So this card will probably be seen by more people because of that event. So I'm going to put that one up. I'm hoping some of these other ones, I've just noticed that the Cade Cunningham Hyper Prison has gone up in value recently, so I thought I would give it a try. Some of these other ones, Asia and Red Wave, and this is an Asia exclusive also, these are actually risky ones to be doing in auctions. A lot of times, Asia Golds are very rare, but nobody really knows that and nobody really looks for it specifically. But I went ahead and gave it a try anyway. I thought maybe people were going to type in the word gold, popular thing to search. I thought maybe Anthony Edwards is maybe potentially having a bit of a moment just before the season starts. Is his hype? People have a lot of expectations. So it's like, I'm going to try. Maybe Anthony Simons will have something similar because Damian Lillard is traded and he's probably going to score like crazy. So it's like, I'm going to try. So, I'm trying a few things just to kind of see. I hope I didn't make too much of a mistake. This is another one. This is a higher price card that I'm hoping to get like $100 for, and we'll see. One thing with the NBA tip-off event, usually you have to pay an extra $2 to get cards put into the elite system where they take a nicer scan, and you have to pay this extra $2, and then you can put it up for auction. For this, you didn't have to pay that $2, which is part of the reason I'm doing this. I mean, I know $2, it shouldn't be the thing that makes it or breaks it, but it does save me $2. If you wanted to try this yourself, this is one I've decided I'm just going to go ahead and do it for this video. Originally, I wasn't going to put this one up for auction because it's kind of at that border where I'm like, ah, man, I don't know. I don't really want to put this up for auction so much, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, just so you can kind of see the process. So, and I do think because it's Michael Jordan, and a lot of people are going to be looking at for Michael Jordan cards in COMC's tip-off event because everybody always looks for Michael Jordan. I thought I would just give it a try. Now, normally, if you want to do this and you go to send to auction, they're going to eventually send you to this reprocess as elite. You're going to have to do that 99% of the time. This time, because of the NBA tip-off event, I don't need to. There's NBA tip-off event option here. You can see I usually, if you want to send a card off for auction, there's going to be a different box there. That one's not there because this is not elite. So I either have to send this as this NBA tip-off event, or I just can't auction this off. No submission fee at the beginning. Of course, that's true, but then they're going to take $3.50 off at the end. I'm just hoping this card sells for at least $25. If it sells for $25, they take 14%. I'm going to go ahead and do it for this card just because I do think there's a little bit of a chance this might go a little higher than it normally would because of this. So I'm going to go ahead and try it. So you do this and boom, there it is. See, it's popped up on the top there. Very simple. Eventually that gets put up with, there's going to be a date when it starts. So it's a week or a week and a half or something like that in forward. I mean, it takes them a little bit of time to gather in. So this one's coming up today, actually, because this is today's date right now when I'm recording this video. This is coming up a few days after that, and this is coming up a few days after that. So these ones are going to be on there. And once they're on there, you can click on this and you can go and see it. It's not there yet, so you won't be able to see it now, but you can see some of your past videos. I mean, you can see some of your past auctions if you go in. So you can see, this one sold for $27. This is definitely on the lower end of comp spectrums for this. If I could go back in time, I probably wouldn't have put that one up for auction. Now, when these things actually sell and they pop up on your front page, it always says, how much you bought something for and how much you got. Now, for the auction ones, when it says the you got part, it doesn't mention the $3.50 you have off. So you do have to keep when you look at this to see, what your actual profit is if you're making money from it and stuff like that. If you're flipping it into auction. So anyway, that's how you do it. I don't necessarily recommend doing it often. I do it every once in a while just because I have a lot of cards in my inventory and I do want to sell them. So sometimes if there's cards that I think it might be the moment, I might give it a try. But I would be careful if you haven't used anything like you sold cards at like an NBA tip-off event, or there's one for the NFL, there's one for hockey, there's one for baseball that's kind of similar. If you've never done that and you want to try it, I would suggest just doing it with a couple of cards, and make sure they're with cards that are the kinds of cards that everybody's seeking. A name that is a player that a lot of people will search in the search bar for that specific player. Don't go for kind of like the little hidden card that will just fall through the cracks and will be lost in this list of thousands of different cards that's going to be up there at one time. So you got to be very careful about that. And then at other times too, as well as that $3.50 they're going to take minimum, you also have to pay the $2 elite submission fee for the better scan. So it's $5.50 actually you're paying. So you have to keep that in mind. If you really, probably it's better to try to do it with cards that are going to sell for at least $50. Really, I wouldn't suggest. If it ends up going for 40 or whatever, it's not a big deal. But I would suggest trying to do it with cards that you think are going to sell for at least $50. And that's one mistake a lot of people make. They'll put up cards that are going to sell for like $10. And that's the worst place that you could be doing that, because you've paid the $2 elite fee, you paid $3.50 minimum auction fee, you've paid that $5.50, you get $4.50 in COMC credit. That's all for that card that you sold for $10. That's like, I'm sure you could have gotten more for that anywhere else. So you got to be a little careful of what cards you're choosing to do. But as a buyer, if you want to make some money from people's mistakes, that's also the place to go and make money from people's mistakes. Because I know you can buy cards for really cheap. That means that you got to be careful about when you're selling them, because you could be selling them for very cheap without realizing it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful for you. I'll check you next one. Peace.